Portrait of a Fangirl is a web series and podcast created by Temple of Geek. At the core of the project is telling stories of women who have found inspiration, growth, and power through fandom. My name is Jenna Wrenn, and I'm the host of the Portrait of a Fangirl podcast. And I'm here today talking with the fabulous Alice Fanchiang. How are you, Alice?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for agreeing to talk to me today.
Thank you for having me.
Do you just want to tell our listeners a little bit about who you are?
Okay, this is always weird for me because I don't think of myself that way. But I guess I'm something of a geek fashion-ish influencer. I think that's like how most people kind of know me, is that like I like to post my geek fashion outfits and talk about the things I love essentially online, mostly on Instagram these days. I used to do it more on Twitter, but you know, that place is sort of a weird limbo bad place.
It's the bad place.
These days.
Right. So I just wanted to do a quick recap for our listeners who may not be familiar with you.
Mhm.
For those of you who don't know, Alice was one of the women who originally inspired the idea of the Portrait of a Fangirl web series and the idea that fangirls are so much more than just a stereotype. The co-creators, Emily Schuck and Monica Duarte, were really taken by the way you used fashion as an expression of your fandom, kind of like what you were just saying. And also by the fact that you really enjoy traveling to places related to your fandoms. Now, that interview for the web series was 4 years ago at this point. Are those still the same ways that you express your fandom now?
I would say generally speaking, obviously because of the pandemic, there's been a lot less traveling, but I still like it's still like cool, I think, to like go to places that are like related to your fandom, because it's like another way to connect, I guess, to that thing, and also to learn about like the real life places that like your fandoms might be inspired by, you know? So I'm still interested in that. It's just like I'm more, I would say, cautious maybe about like choosing like where I want to go or like how I want to do it, things like that. So I haven't like done any like overseas trips, for example, since 2019.
Right. So you're mostly domestic, like you stay within the United States.
Yeah.
Okay. So I really love the idea of fandom as a window to the world. So can you tell us some of the places that you visited over the years thanks to fandom?
Oh my gosh. Well, so the last trip I did, overseas trip I did before the pandemic, was in 2019, and me and like my friends went to Scotland. And that was because like we watch Outlander together. Like we have Outlander watch parties. So for a lot of like I had kind of wanted to go to Scotland in the past because I had like a massive crush on Ewan McGregor. So it's also a
Oh,
fandom thing.
who
But
didn't?
I know. So like it had kind of been on my like bucket list for a little bit, but you know, it's not like one of the, compared to like London, you know, or Tokyo, it's not really like, I would say, most people's like top destination to go to. But because like me and this group of friends, we started watching Outlander when it started airing as like a group. So suddenly it was like I had all these other people who also wanted to go to Scotland. So it kind of like reignited the desire to go. So that was like I would say that was like a pretty fandom based trip, because that was like the main inspo for why we wanted to go, was because we're like, we love Outlander, we love watching it together, and it seems like a cool place to go. So
That's so interesting.
yeah, so that's like one of the big ones, I guess.
Now, do you feel like on these trips you also are learning more about the history of the place?
Yeah, I like history, so like I usually do like going to like historic sites and things like that. So like for Scotland, yes, a lot of the sites were like places I mentioned in Outlander, or that they filmed at. But we also just like looked at things like, you know, obviously that people like tourist spots, I guess. But when we go, we always like look at the exhibits and like read up on it. So it's like really interesting, I guess, like seeing the history of those places and how it's incorporated in the show in some senses, because Outlander is sort of like a historical fantasy.
Right.
and just in general like experiencing the culture, like the way the people are, and like the Scottish people were so nice, like ridiculously nice. So I would like go back in a heartbeat. It was so fun.
That sounds great. That's actually someplace I'd love to visit. It's on the top of my list, and
Oh, good.
I've heard only great things about the Scottish people.
Yeah, they are like ridiculously nice. Like one of our big stories is like obviously we drove around most places, and like during one of our like drives through like a really naturey area, one of my friends like really needed to go use the restroom, and we literally just stopped at someone's house because she was like, I need to just ask them, like, I'm sorry. So we're like, okay, like let's stop and ask. And like that person let her use the restroom.
That would never. I feel like it would never happen here.
Yeah, that's why when we left, we were like, oh my god, they were like so nice. And she was like, I never would. She's like, I don't think I would have done that for a stranger.
Right? Just a completely different culture, really.
Yeah, so um, I really want to go to New Zealand because of Lord of the Rings, but
I was gonna
also
ask.
yes. So I'm sure Lord of the Rings did a lot of great tourism for New Zealand. I mean, it looks so beautiful. And then the other thing is, my current big obsession is like BTS, and they have like a travel show sort of thing that they do. And one of the seasons they go to New Zealand for like a week.
Really?
So yeah, so that's like another reason why I'm like, I want to go where they went.
It's really interesting because you're really exploring the world thanks in part to being a fangirl.
Yeah.
Have you always been a worldwide traveler, or was there a specific fandom or interest that kind of sent you on that path?
I would say I've always kind of been like a traveler in the sense that like our my parents like ever since we were young kind of put like an emphasis on travel. I don't know if it's because they're immigrants, so obviously they like moved here from another country, but like and so they go used to go back, well, not super often. They're from Taiwan. So when we were young, like I've done a few trips back to Taiwan to see like my maternal grandparents. But so in that sense, it's like that at least is like built in of like a travel like we would do because of family. But besides that, like I think they always emphasize since my sister and I were young, like that travel should be a thing that you do because it essentially is like expand your horizons, you know? So we always used to do like family trips every couple of years, which I guess is kind of unusual, especially as you get older, you know? But like some of like the bigger trips I've done have been with my family. Like in 2018, our most recent one, we went to China, and that was like planned by like my mom, and we went with our parents basically, you know?
Right.
So and like both me and my sister are like adults now, so I think it's like kind of unusual, you know, to like travel with your parents a lot. But
Lovely though. That's really
yeah,
nice. You get to kind of have that, your experience in the world, but you also get to make those memories with your family.
yeah. So yeah, kind of traveling's always kind of like been built in, I guess, to at least like my family DNA. And for our mom has always just said, other than it being fun, is she was like, well, I don't want you to like just like grow up in like a little bubble and think that like this is just like the only way that people live or like the only way things are done, you know? So I really appreciate that. So that's why it's kind of like when I got older and like, you know, start having my own opinion about stuff and like doing fandom things, it was like natural to be like, oh well, like what was this based on, or like where did they film this, like that'd be kind of cool to like see if it's a real place, you know.
Right. Very interesting. Your family sounds like they're a lot of fun. So, what are some tips for fandom traveling that you have? Like, what do you think people really need to know before setting out on these type of adventures?
um Research. I definitely like I'm not a planner, so again, really grateful for people like my mom who love planning things, or some of the friends I've traveled with that like they're better planners than I am. But I would definitely say research because especially if you're doing other things, like you want to make sure that you're not like wasting time anywhere. Because sometimes the like spots are like hard to get to, or they're like a
Right.
little bit out of the way, you know? So like I went to I think I forget what year it was. Was it 2015? No, I don't know. In the early 2010s, when it was
Pre-pandemic, right?
yeah, it was basically when Sherlock was like really popular,
Right.
and like my sister and I had gone to London, and so we were like, oh, we should just look up some of the places where they shot Sherlock, like where their 221B, like on the show. And so it's like you can look up where that is, and it wasn't like hard to get to, but it was like kind of out of the way. Like it wasn't really like it's in London proper, but like it's not like next to like a big tourist attraction or whatever. So,
Right.
or like a big historical site. So it's like we literally got on, the underground or wherever to get to that spot to take a picture, and then had
Right.
to like leave to the next place. So if you don't want to like waste a lot of time, or like there are a lot of things you want to see, I would say definitely like research the things that you want to see if it's like worth it to you to like go to, if it's out of the way, or like if it costs money to get into, and then that way you can like plan your schedule accordingly. And also sometimes it's like there are places that like you can't get to, so also don't break any laws like trespass or whatever.
That's a
So
very, very good tip.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, getting a good overview basically of where you're going to be, what you want to see, how to get there.
Yeah, and like also so you don't miss out on something that like you really want to see. So, oh my gosh, that reminds me of like a really embarrassing but funny story. Is like this is definitely in 2015. I like did like a U.S. history trip because I'm like really into the revolution.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. So that like era of U.S. history is like my favorite era, the Revolutionary era. And then that was the year that Hamilton went to Broadway. So then I went to I was like, I want to do an East Coast trip. I want to like hit up some of the big like revolutionary era spots, right?
Right.
And then like go to New York and see Hamilton. So we did like Washington D.C. and New York, and then Boston, like a little bit of like Massachusetts. So when we were in D.C., obviously like we went to the Smithsonian, we went to the Library of Congress, like that stuff. And then we left and went to New York, and I was like posting about it. And like my friend that I was staying with in Boston, she was like commenting on my stories and was like, "Oh, I can't wait to see you," because I was staying with her. And then she goes, "Did you see the Declaration of Independence?" And I was like, "What?" And she's like, "Well, you were in DC. Did you go see the Declaration of Independence?" And I was like, "No." And like I don't know why, I just like didn't think about it. I don't know, like it was just like not something in my brain. But
Right.
like when she said that, I was like, "Oh my god, I didn't go
I was
see the
right
Declaration."
there.
Yeah. So that's why I'm like, definitely think about what you want to see and make sure you know if it's there.
Right.
Yeah. So I did not see the Declaration of Independence,
No.
and I haven't been back to Washington D.C. since 2015. So I still have not seen the Declaration of Independence.
Well, you'll have to come do an East Coast trip. I'm in New York, and I was in DC for a whole semester of college studying American
Oh
history and
my
never
god.
saw the Declaration of Independence.
Okay, we should go together.
Yes, we should. I also feel that way. I'm like, man, I was there to study American history and I did not see the Declaration of Independence. So we'll plan it.
Okay, yeah, let's
Next on
do
the
that.
list.
Yes.
Stay tuned here to Portrait of a Fangirl.
Yeah. We'll do a special episode about us finally seeing the Declaration of Independence.
Oh, I would love that. I would love that. So you're well known on Instagram and in the geek fashion community for your pop culture inspired looks, as you touched on briefly before.
Mm.
How did your journey into fashion begin, and how does it compare to your style now?
Oh my gosh, it's so weird because like I said, I don't really think of myself that way, and like growing up, I wouldn't say I was like a fashion person. If anything, like in high school, I think I was just like known for like accessories. Like I
Right.
love jewelry, right? But yeah, so I don't really know like too much how that happened. Like I used to not post pictures of myself too much on Instagram either. It would just be like my dog, right? Like or like some what I ate. But I feel like it must have been like when kind of like the early days of Disney bounding, I think when it was like starting to get more popular, and then other people were doing so I think it was like Disney Bound wasn't quite like super well known yet, and then like other girls were doing like those geek fashion challenges, and I think I was just like, well, I mean, I like to dress in themes sometimes, like when I go to places where I'm like, oh, this would be cute because it's like if I'm going to like an art museum, right? Like, oh, I have a shirt with like, Van Gogh like sunflowers on it. Like, I'm gonna wear that if I'm going to a museum and there's like a Van Gogh exhibit. So I think when I saw that, I was just kind of like, well, that seems kind of fun. So maybe I'll just do it. So I think I there was one called Nerdvember that like I think that's actually how I found Jordan, like from Jordan Dene, because I think she participated in it. She didn't run it. It was by two other girls that I can't think of right now. I think one of them is the owner of like they used to be called Gold Bubble Clothing, but I think they're called Pop Galaxy now. I think she was one
Okay.
of the original like people who hosted that, the Nerdvember thing. And basically it was like they had like 30 prompts all through November, and it was like participate as you will, and I think they gave prizes. So very similar to how the Sartorial Geek challenge is run. And then so I was just like, well, I have a bunch of geek clothes now, so
Right.
mostly t-shirts. Back then it was mostly like graphic tees. So I was like, well, that'll be fun. Like I can do that. Like if it's Star Wars, I'll wear a Star Wars t-shirt, and I have like like galaxy leggings. So I'll like do an outfit with that because it's like themed space. And I think that's how I just sort of like got into it because, everyone who participated was like really nice. I think it's just fun like for all of us to see other women doing something like that. And you're like, oh wow, like look at everyone's different fashion, or like you discover new brands like, oh my gosh, like I said, I think that's how I found Jordan. Because I don't know if Jordan participated or one of the other participants like had a Jordan Dene shirt, and I was like, "That's so cute! Like, what is that brand?"
So
Yeah,
it kind of creates like almost like a sense of community, basically. You're all kind
yeah.
of seeing that you have the same interests and creating like a little community there.
hmm So I think that's just how I started doing it, and then like I was like, "Well, I guess it's fine. Like, I guess I'll post more pictures of myself when I like my outfit." And I think it helped like when like a cat, my sister and I like finally went to Comic Con for the first time, because then I was like, every day I want to have like a different themed outfit. So like I like actually planned out my outfits like that first year. I mean, I plan out my outfits like every year now, but that year it was very like it was new. So I was just like, oh my gosh, this day it's gonna be like Star Wars space themed, and then like this day I have like this, I don't know, like a Hannibal themed thing. Like I'll wear plaid and like flower crown, like that sort of
Right.
thing. So I think like that sort of like boosted me more into being like, oh, I want to do this. And then like I said, like Disney bounding started getting big. So like I was like, oh, that's like such a cute idea. It's sort of like something I already do. I just like never, I didn't have like a name for it.
Right.
And I was like, it's so cool that other people like have the same idea, and like it's cute and it's easy. Like it's meant to be kind of like, easy to do. So like all those things I think helped me like get into it.
Very cool journey for you there. So, as you mentioned, you have modeled, or I'm sorry, let me restart that question. Sorry, Monica. Hmm. You mentioned Jordan Dene before,
Yes.
and I know you have modeled for Jordan and Elle Hoffer Designs as well. What has your experience with brand partnership been like?
Generally positive. Like I said, I'm not really like a big, like I would like I don't call myself an influencer really, so I don't have like a big account. So I don't get like many like brand sort of partnership type requests. But like you said, mostly my two major ones are Jordan and Elle Hoffer. And then it's like Jordan I know personally, so it's like always fun to like do stuff with her because she's really chill. And like literally I think the only like professional, I guess, like photo shoot I did with her was when I was just visiting New York. I was like, I want to see you. And then she was like, oh, I have some new stuff. If you have time, do you mind coming to take some pictures? So I was like,
That's so
okay.
fun.
Yeah. So like that is like, it was very casual, really chill. And it was just like a hangout for us. Um, with Elle Hoffer, it's also just kind of like, I like, knew Katie from just interacting with her online and seeing her like, you know, amazing like designs, right? So it's just one of those things where I was grateful that they like reached out to me to just be like, oh, kind of like, you've been a long time like fan and customer. Would you be interested to, you know, work with us, like do something with us? So also with them, it's more set up like a you know, like a professional photo shoot, but like everyone is like super nice, and like most people that they ask are like amateurs, you know, like I'm not like a model, so I'm not like I totally know what I'm doing, like crush the posing or whatever, but they're very supportive, and like so it's a very like comfortable atmosphere with them.
That's
So
very nice.
yeah, so it's been good. I think, I mean, I met all these people through the community, you know, like
Right.
fandom community. So in general, working with both of them has been like very comfortable and fulfilling and like nice, because it is just kind of turns into like a little bit of a hangout. Like we all just catch up with each other, you know?
Right. So it's like a little mixture of business and pleasure, I guess you could say, right?
Yes.
So what is your personal philosophy to staying authentic and true to yourself while also supporting these different brands?
um, I just try to think of it like how I enjoy social media. Is that like I I understand that like especially for influencers that it is like a business for them, right? Like it's easy for me, I think, to be authentic because I just post on my account as like a private citizen, you know, like
Right.
so it's like the stuff I post really is just like the things I'm doing or the things that I like. And so for me, I'm like, if I really like a brand or want to support, you know, small business, I just like talk about it. But I also think about like I said, for like big influencers, or like sometimes when I am doing something for, say, Jordan or like her universe, it's like there are brand obligations. So like for big influencers, obviously they have a lot of brand obligations. So I try to like understand that like, well, you want to fulfill the brand obligations, but as a person who's like on social media, I don't want to always be like sold to, you know?
Right.
So I think for me it's like I just try to think about like, well, if I've like already posted, you know, this many things and they all sound like ads, like I should chill out. Like I don't have like 5 posts in a row that's all like, buy this, there's a sale here, whatever. You know, like I try to think about like you know, if I was just like a regular person like scrolling, like I want to see the stuff, but I don't necessarily want to always feel like, oh, buy, you know?
Right.
So, but like I said, like if I really like something, I'll talk about it. But I am just like a little bit aware of like, is this coming off like a sale post? So like sometimes it's like I won't talk about it too much, but I'll like at least tag the things, you know?
Like
But
you personally like.
right. Yeah. So it's like I really like this outfit, but I'm not trying to make it seem like, oh my God, go buy this, or like, you know, because I'm a brand ambassador for this, like go buy this thing. I'll just be like, oh well, like I wore this outfit, it was cute, and I do like these brands. People might want to know, so I'll write my like little caption about what I'm doing, and then I'll just like tag the things that I'm wearing, you know?
Right. Right. So
So
then people can find it, that way. It's more of look at this. I got it here. If you want to check it out, you can check it out, sort of thing.
yeah, yeah. And it's like, or you know, ask me about it, and that's totally fine. Like you can ask me about it.
Right.
But
So you're open to communication on social media.
yeah.
Okay. So getting more to the present, I know we talked about the pandemic, but now fast forwarding to present times,
Yeah.
sometimes it feels like we're really stuck in a time loop where things that
Yes.
women love or that women contribute are not taken seriously. Uh,
Always.
always. And it doesn't change. It really is a time loop.
Mhm.
Despite the years of discussion around the subject. For example, recently there were some jokes that Joe Coy made during the Golden Globes at the expense of Taylor Swift and the Barbie movie. Or there was that viral TikTok where sorry, let me redo that. Or there was the viral TikTok where psychologist Sadia Khan said, "Do we need more women in Star Wars? No, we don't, and women don't even like Star Wars." Do you feel these moments are uniting us, or do you think it's becoming more divisive among fangirls?
I feel like I feel like those moments still unite us in the sense that like, I mean, like even for me, like that Star Wars thing, I haven't like super been posting that much like or that excited about Star Wars a little while. But like hearing that like got me so mad.
Yeah.
I think it's like the same thing that you said where you're like, are we really having this discussion again?
Again, yeah.
That like it just like it definitely got me fired up again a little bit, and I actually posted about Star Wars, right? To be like, no, we've been here, we will still be here. So I do think it's like those moments, while they suck, I do think they still like bring people together because like it was really nice for me, at least with that Star Wars thing, because like I said, I haven't been like in the last couple years I've been a little bit more distant from the fandom, but like seeing the people who responded to that like with posts and reels and stuff of their own, like a lot of those girls are not like the same women that like I necessarily saw around when I was super active in the fandom. So for me, it was like super nice because I'm like, wow, see, like it's true though. Like fangirls have always been here and they'll continue to be here. Because I'm like, look at all these new fans that like I've never seen some of these accounts before. Or like,
Right.
none of these people, like literally the Galactic Coven stuff we did was in 2020, like, and I saw so many new fangirls then because we got so many like interactions and like participation in our community events, even though it was all online, obviously. But it was like I feel like I was like, wow, like look at all these fangirls. I've like never seen so many fangirls before. It like felt so good. But like the girls who were doing their responses to like that Star Wars soundbite were like girls who like were not part of that wave of stuff that like I personally experienced. So for me it was like really nice because I'm like, well, look at this, people are still finding Star Wars or like getting into it, or because they saw like a new wave of like Star Wars fangirls who are like becoming like influencers in the community, like they're really getting into it or like feel comfortable showing their stuff.
Right.
So I feel like in general it's still like uniting. It's just like frustrating that these opinions or things still happen when you're
Right.
like, how many times have we shown that like there is like a female audience that like enjoys these like nerd properties, you know? Like I don't know the like actual statistics, but most of the time I'm like, I think we spend more money than the boys do on
Right.
these fandoms. So I like really do not know why like it takes so long for like the I guess like the needle on society to like move even just a little bit on this.
It's such a silly thing. Like, I feel like a lot of times it's sometimes the loudest voice isn't the most accurate voice to
Right.
represent people, right?
Mhm.
How do you cope with bigotry and misogyny in fandom?
I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm lucky that I haven't like experienced too much of it like directly. Again, I think partly because I'm not like a big account, but
Right.
I do see like these big accounts who get a lot of this like pushback. And I think it's just that thing where like you do have to realize that like online isn't everything,
Right.
you know? So, and I feel like the pandemic helped in that sense because we were all chronically online
Yes.
during the pandemic, and then I it made me realize that like too much of that really is a bad thing. Because I think you start like fixating on like really dumb things that like do not matter, or like things that like I would be like, why am I getting mad about this? Like this doesn't usually affect me. But I'm like, oh, I realize it's because I like am stuck at home. I have nowhere to go.
Yeah.
So I'm like constantly seeing like this annoying behavior from like, certain people or like on Twitter or whatever. So I think like obviously it sucks if someone's like in your comments or like in your tweets coming at you like trying to fight you, but I really do, especially these days, like prescribe to like the idea of like online isn't everything and you do just have to like protect your energy and space.
Right.
So, and I know it's hard because in, for some people online is like their main community, So I know it could be like hard to disengage, or like you don't have a support system in real life, but it is that thing where you're like, where I'm like, sometimes something that's like really upsetting me from like online, if I log off and like go hang out with my friends in real life, or like spend time with my family, or like walk my dog, you're like, oh, there is like an outside world, and like
Right.
not everyone, like I was so mad about like, you know, like the Star Wars soundbite, but like out in the physical world, like people don't even know that happened. You know,
Right.
like I have like friends who aren't chronically online, but who are into Star Wars, who are like, "What happened?" And I'm like, "Look
Right.
at this peaceful, wonderful life they're living." You know, so it's kind of like you don't have to fight like every battle. I think is the main thing. Like, I would just really think about where you want to spend your energy, because it's taxing, and like a lot of these like haters and trolls like don't deserve your energy or your time. And it's not like you're going to change their minds anyway, you know?
Right. Some people just exist to push buttons, and I think it's
Mhm.
hard to, it's hard, especially if you're somebody who is sensitive. Like I'm a sensitive person, so sometimes, you can't completely ignore it. But like you said, stepping away and remembering that sometimes the algorithm and the niche you're in dictates what you see too. I think is a big part of it.
Mhm.
So I think
Yeah.
that's really good advice. What is your advice to fangirls who are struggling to find their place in fandom?
Oh, I would just say to like, it could take a while, but you should just kind of like, you kind of have to put yourself out there a little bit. And I know it's hard because
Yeah.
I swear I'm like an introvert, and I'm not really social. Like in person, I'm pretty quiet. I'm like not a conversation starter. But like, do what you feel comfortable, but you do kind of have to put yourself out there. Like we said, it is a community, so like if you're trying to find people that you mesh with, you have to participate in the community. You know, I'm not saying you have to like post pictures of yourself, or like, you know, write like some crazy essay or whatever, but like I think it's just as easy as, if you see something that you like comment on it, right? So I think a lot of creators like will take the time to like respond to their comments. So, I mean, that's why their comments are open, right?
Right.
So, like, I would just say like participate, and like I feel like you'll naturally find people that like are into the same things as you. Like I said, with Jordan, or even with like Elhofer, it's like, because I like, when I like really like something of theirs, I like comment on it, you know? So, and obviously you're not going to get like, not everyone's going to be like super friendly or like super talkative, but like some people are, and like those might be the people that you like end up really clicking with and like becoming friends with.
Right. You just basically never know what's going to happen.
Exactly. So you do just have to put yourself out there a little
Just
bit.
get out there.
Yeah.
One of the things that I love about you is that you seem to always be surrounded by other fangirls. Whether it's fangirling over a Marvel or BTS, you seem to be surrounded by people who really do share your enthusiasm and your love for fandom. How did you come to find your community of friends?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. It's kind of hard to say, because I realized, excuse me, I've realized in recent years that like I really was really lucky that like I found people like other weird girls, I guess, early on, like in school. So like a lot of my, like not a lot, but like some of my oldest fangirl friends are my friends from like middle school and high school.
Right. That you
Um
shared that love with, that early love for things with, right?
yeah, yeah. So it's like, you know, like, yeah, like my oldest Star Wars friend is because we literally got into Star Wars in high school together around like Phantom Menace time, you know? So, or I mean, sorry, around Attack of the Clones. Phantom Menace had already come out. But yeah, it's kind of hard for me to say like how did I find them, because I think I've just been like lucky in that like at least I had like a real life like support system from the start. But like I guess like in the newer stuff, it's just like, it's kind of like I said, you kind of just have to like put yourself out there. And I think when you yourself are like, I think when you yourself are very positive and enthusiastic about the things that you love, it like attracts people, you know?
Right.
So I think it like attracts people. So it's like, again, if you don't like being the conversation starter, but you like are really passionate about, you know, like Star Wars, or like you're really passionate about Loki and you just
Right.
like, you know, are just like posting for yourself out into the void of the internet, like I feel like there are people who will find you who will be like, oh my god, like I love that thing too, I don't have anyone to talk to about that, you know? So I think that's like my feeling on it, is that like I think if you, some people, it's like we said, I think all these, the fan girl community like finds each other because for a lot of girls it's hard to see themselves in these like male dominated spaces.
Yeah.
So when you see someone who's like out there being like public about how much they love something or whatever, then I think it helps make you kind of like braver to like, I can show that I love that thing too, or at least I can talk to this person even if everyone else in my life doesn't understand why I'm like being so crazy about this like fictional character, you know, or whatever. So I do think it is just like, I guess it's like, wow, I'm probably like dating. You just have to like slowly get to know people. Yeah, but you do, like, I would just say really be you. Don't be embarrassed about like what you like, because I guarantee there's someone out there who also likes that weird thing, and that you will find each other somehow.
Right. The like-minded attract like-minded.
Yes.
Right. You have mentioned all these different fandoms that you love, and you have journeyed in these spaces for quite a long time. Have
Yes.
you noticed that any difference between the different fandoms?
Um, I mean, I think sometimes it's just like, I think the biggest thing I've noticed recently is I'm like, so like I said, I'm really into like BTS right now, and like so kind of like bleeding into other K-pop. Um, and I definitely, for that, I feel like it's like a younger fandom. My impression of it is that like it is more like teenagers and like
Right.
early 20s. And obviously I'm not any of those ages anymore. So for me, I'm like, wow, that's like young. You know,
They're
these
young,
are
they're
young.
babies.
Yeah, these are young people. So like I think that's like the biggest thing for me, because it's like I do feel like in something like Star Wars and Marvel, you have like a bigger range of like these young people, but also obviously there are people from like, you know, who like got into like have grown up reading Marvel comics or DC comics, or, you know, people who are like, I was 11 when my dad took me to see Star Wars
Yep.
and I've been like in it since. So it's like it's a bigger range of like people who are like a lot older than me and people who are my age, and then like these young people who are like discovering it for the first time. But in K-pop it does feel very like a young, quote, young people thing.
It's like I would almost would say like newer here at least. It's become
Yes.
more
It,
mainstream here.
yes. Yeah. So it does feel like, to me, it's like a little bit. Well, it doesn't help. Not like it doesn't help, but the fact that like the idols themselves are like in that like young 20s age
Right.
range obviously dictates like their audience's like age range too. It's been pretty interesting because like with BTS, at least, because they are like slightly older, like a couple of the members just turned 30. So
Oh,
they're
so
like
yeah,
late
they're a little
20s.
older.
Yeah, they're like late 20s. They've been around for like a long time for K-pop. um, their fandom, I would say, is like wider. So like when I got into it, it didn't feel like too different, because it was like these other fandoms where it felt like, oh, there's like a pretty big age range, or like a lot of people I talk to, if they're not like, if I mean, a lot of people I talk to are not my age. They're like younger than me, but they're like late 20s, you know, like they've
Right.
already graduated college. I felt like those were sort of like, that was more common. But like as I've like gotten into like a few other like younger groups, then it's like, whoa, some of these people are young.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's been kind of interesting, where like I think the BTS fandom, like ARMY, is a little bit more diverse, or obviously diverse, and then some of these other newer bands have like, it definitely feels like a much younger crowd. And then
Right.
the other thing with some, at least with ARMY, that I found that has been kind of interesting is that like for a lot of people, they haven't been fangirls like until they got into
Right.
BTS. So that's been like kind of interesting where they're like, this is the first time I've been like so obsessed about something, you know, or whatever. Like I'm reading fanfic, or I'm, you know, making merch, or I'm collecting merch, or like holding events, like I'm meeting up with other fans. It's like for I've met more people who are like, this is the first time I've been involved in a community like this where I'm like doing these like public things, or like doing like the collector thing. And I was like, oh, interesting. Because, you know, like there are tons of merch collectors and like cons and stuff for like the typical, I guess, fandoms of like
Right.
superheroes or like sci-fi type stuff, you know?
Right. So these are like kind of like an offshoot of that for different types of fandoms.
Yeah. Yeah. So
That's interesting.
yeah.
Speaking of conventions and events like this, do you attend these yourself? And do you ever get the fear of missing out if you don't?
um yes, to both things. So I think so for conventions, I don't do like, I've never done like the con like crawl. So I've really only just done, well, when I was younger, I did Anime Expo, and then for a couple years, and then in more recent years, I've done like San Diego Comic Con, like the big one, and then LACC, LA Comic Con. But like I don't like, but it's kind of like WonderCon is here too, and then and you know I know people love like Dragon Con, so I haven't really gone to like any of those other ones. Like it really was, at least for like the recent stuff, it really has just been like LA Comic Con and then like the big Comic Con.
Like, yeah, like the big, well-known.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think it gets
So
much bigger than San Diego Comic-Con. Like, I feel like that is
exactly.
the convention.
Yeah, so I think like in that sense, I'm like, because I go to the Comic Con, like San Diego Comic Con, it helps with like the FOMO of everything else. Because I'm kind of like, I've already gone to like the biggest one. And it is like, I'm not gonna lie, like pretty overwhelming because
Yeah.
it's so many people. You know? It's like really cool, but I'm like, after like 4 days of that, I'm like so tired. So like I said, it really does help with FOMO because you're like, I don't need to do this again for another
Yeah.
year.
I can rest this weekend.
Yeah. So in that sense, like I do get FOMO when I see people at other cons. I've also done D23, the Disney one. Yeah. So I do get FOMO when I see people like, especially like when Celebration happens. Like I still haven't been to a Celebration. So like there are definitely cons where like I obviously, because I follow a lot of people who go to cons, when it happens where I get FOMO about it. But I also know, like I said, I'm an introvert. So I also know that like I really only have so much energy. And like thinking
It's
about like,
tiring.
yeah, thinking about that, I'm kind of like, I'm sad, but also I think I'm okay. I'll just look at people's videos and pictures.
Right. And you
Um,
remember you're getting a curated feed based on what people are posting. Like when you're in the
right.
thick of it, it's
Yeah.
tiring.
Yeah. No one's posting about how they like slept on the sidewalk at like
Yeah.
3 a.m. Like they're not posting pictures of themselves, you know, like freezing like in a sleeping bag because they're like in a Hall H line or whatever, you know? So
Oh
yeah.
gosh.
Yeah,
It's
Instagram's not reality. Just remember that.
it is true. I haven't never done San Diego. I'm in New York, so I've done New York Comic
Right.
Con like 10 years in a row. And this year
Mm.
it was just so crazy. And I was like, you don't see me sleeping on the train like on the way home. It's so
Right.
tiring.
Yeah, like you don't I'm like, you really do not hear me complaining for like 80% of the time I'm walking around the con, you know? So, like you see the like picture of me like, look at me, I'm in Hall H, but not the like 20 hours before of me like complaining about how like I have to be in a line.
I haven't eaten, my feet hurt. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm sweating, you know?
It's just the glamour of social media, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. So that's like also how like I remind myself. I'm like, okay, but did I really want to be surrounded by all those people? Did I really
Yeah.
want to, you know? I think a recent so I went to like Lollapalooza last year to see one of like the K-pop bands I'm like super into. Tomorrow by Together, they like headlined. And it was because the year before, so 2022 was their first year at Lollapalooza. and one of the BTS members, J-Hope, was a headliner that year. So like my sister and I had like the thought, we were like, oh my god, are we gonna go? Like then we get to see both of them.
Right.
And like so incredible, like historic, right? Like the first time for both of them being at like Lollapalooza. But like it was just like, so like they had like the live stream, so we watched the live stream of their performances and it was like super good. And so like we did not end up going that year, 2022. But it was like that thing where like she and I have done Coachella, and I do actually like music festivals, but it's like a con, like very specific amount of like mental preparation you have to do, because you're like, okay, I'm gonna be around like a ton of people, right? Like, what am I gonna wear? It's outside. Like, what's the weather gonna be like? Is it gonna be super hot? Is it gonna be really cold? You know, like, what's the restroom situation gonna be like?
A lot of planning.
Yeah, like all that stuff. And then like you just have to mentally be like, okay, like if I want to be like in the front, how early do I have to go? Like, am I gonna be standing in this spot for like 4 or 5 hours? That sort of stuff, right? So it is a lot of like mental prep you have to do. And like, so that year we didn't go because I think we were still like, I mean, my sister and I are still very like COVID safe with our like precautions. And like I think that year it was like, I think the vaccines had like just been like rolled out, you know, or I mean they've been rolled out, but it was just that thing where I was like, both of us were like not prepared to be in like a crowd of that size, and especially like squished together, even if it was like outdoors.
It's
a
lot,
so it's
yeah.
like stuff like that where we're like, we really want to see them, and like when we watch the live stream, like so much FOMO. Okay, like let me tell you,
of course,
so much FOMO. But it was that thing where I'm kind of like, but ultimately, even watching the live stream, like seeing that crowd, I was like, I could not be in that. You know, like you kind of have to like know yourself well enough to be like yes, do I regret a little bit not going? Yes, but also at the same time, like seeing that crowd, and like even now when I like look back on those performances and seeing that crowd, I'm like, I couldn't have been in that. You know,
right?
Like it looked hot, like it was a lot of people really close together, and like I could not have been in that crowd. Right. So
it takes away a little bit of that excitement and joy, you know, thinking about what you have to go through in order to fangirl, if you will. You know, it takes away a little bit of it.
Yeah. So yeah, I would just say like really know yourself of like what your limits are and what you're comfortable with, and also once again, Instagram is not reality.
Yes. It's a very big thing to remember.
Yeah. It's very curated.
Yes. Very. Well, speaking of Instagram, I think we're coming up to the end here, and I'd like you. Can you give your Instagram handle for our listeners?
Yes. So I mainly post on my personal / the fashion-y one is a kangaroo. So it's spelled like kangaroo, except it's a U at the end instead of 2 O's.
Okay. We'll link it and everything.
Yeah. So I won't spell it out, but it's essentially that. She'll link it. And then my other one is called Girl on the Roam, and that's more curated, and it's mostly focused on like travel, so there's less photos of me, but I try to keep it more about travel and a little bit of like my writing. That's the other one. So
excellent. Everyone make sure to give a follow. Alice, it has been absolutely wonderful to talk to you today, and thank you so much for taking time out.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was fun because, like I said, I haven't talked to like anyone seriously in a while.
It's so much fun. This has been a great time for me.
Yay, I'm glad.